Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this Blitz chess postmortem. This is a postmortem of my Blitz game number 232. I was black here. My opponent kicked off with c4, the English defense. So I reply knight f6, which is a very flexible move, leads lots of different possibilities. You can go into a symmetrical formation later, or reverse Sicilian, or you can continue on with g6 or e6 or even d6. So lots of different possibilities depending upon what your opponent plays. My opponent played knight f3 and I went in for c5, the symmetrical line. Here e6 is a way to play as well, setting up a typical kind of Nimzo-Indian structure, or g6, a King's Indian type structure. So, but c5 is a reasonable way to play. g3, not the most popular choice. Knight c3 is the most common here, but still a respectable move. And now I replay g6, also not the most common move, although it seemed to me it was a reasonable response to g3 to just set up this fianchetto. Looks like b6, challenging the fianchetto bishop, is a very interesting option here and most popular choice. So I might try that sometime, just get the reverse bishop going. And then after d3, we're actually out of the opening book. So d3 is just kind of a very quiet move. It helps, I mean, it's a strategic move. It helps control the light squares, which the bishop is going to be on g2, aiming at these light squares, and d3 would hit e4, also protecting those light squares. So it makes sense from a strategic point of view, but it's not the most active way to play. The immediate bishop g2 or even d4, going straight for the center, maybe are a little better ways to play in general, but not a bad move. So he played d3. We're just out of the opening book at this point. And you'll see that white has a small advantage. This is pretty typical of the English. There's like a less of an advantage in the English opening compared to some of the other mainline openings, but it does leave open the possibility for keeping all the pieces on the board and having a tense struggle later. So it's not necessarily giving up. It's just playing for a smaller edge than usual and avoiding sharp lines. So I went knight c3 here. No, my opponent went knight c3 here. Sorry, getting confused. And I castled. Bishop g2. So these look like pretty normal developing moves. And now I played d5. Maybe, oh, d5 shows up there as an option. Okay, I was wondering if that was maybe a little overambitious. But it seems to me like since white hasn't bothered to stake a claim to the center, except for over here, then maybe I can advantageously try and grab some space. So he took. It looks like castling and just leaving the pawn there is a way to play. So I took, and he took. I take with a knight. And I was really expecting him just to take back and continue trading. But he played bishop d2 instead, defending his knight, which is a perfectly valid way to play. I've got two pieces attacking this knight, but he's got the bishop and the pawn defending it, so things are fine. And it even becomes a little bit tricky for me. I have to always constantly calculate, well, if he trades, let's erase these lines. If he were to, erase this line. If he were to take my knight here and I take back with the queen, my queen would be sitting on this square and subject to a discovered attack from his bishop. And so just a knight move might cause some discomfort for my queen if the knight can attack something or move to where it defends the bishop. So I always had to calculate that for the next few moves. So he played, I played knight c6, he castles, and I went bishop g4. Maybe a mistake. No, it's still in the range of about even. Okay. Seems I just had some trouble with that bishop later. Let's see if there are other moves here. Just knight takes c3. Okay, so trying to resolve the problem of what to do with the knight by just taking it, or playing b6 and getting a bishop to b7, I guess. That would be the other way of playing it. So bishop g4, still okay. Rook b1. And before I go much further, I have to say I hadn't played for about a week here, and my rustiness really kind of showed in this game, so I hope you'll excuse the blunders. But you know, even blunders can be interesting. There are lessons to be learned because your opponents are not perfect. They'll make blunders too. So anyway, rook b1, defending the pawn. I'm not sure rook b1 accomplishes a whole lot. Yeah, the rook might be more useful on c1. That's an engine suggestion, putting it on an open file and indirectly pressuring the c-pawn. I mean, eventually this bishop might open up this diagonal, and the knight might move, opening up this diagonal for the bishop, and then there would be some pressure on b2, but it hasn't happened yet. So rook b1 is a preventative move, but maybe not yet necessary. So I play queen d7, he goes rook e1, and so my next move, bishop h3, is a mistake. So if you didn't notice this during the game, and I'm not going to, if I play the move bishop h3, the computer will immediately point out what the mistake is. So here's your chance for a tactical quiz. Why is bishop h3 a mistake? Okay, it's not too hard to see, so pause the video and take a look at it, see if you can figure it out if you haven't got it already. I am going to show the answer now. If I play the move bishop h3, which I did, my opponent can just take it, because that forces me to take back with the queen, and then he takes my knight. Remember I was talking about how I needed to be worried about that knight? Well, I overlooked this idea. I was worried about attacks on this diagonal, but it's also under attack from the knight, so you have to worry about both of them. So if we get to this position after bishop h3, my queen is overloaded. It's doing two jobs. It's defending the knight and it's defending the bishop. So classic example of overloading, because it can't do both. Sometimes a piece really can do both jobs. Like, for example, if you were to take the knight and I take back and the queen happened to also defend the bishop from that square, then it could effectively do both jobs, but not here. Or if he takes the bishop, if there's a way for me to take back and still defend the knight. But either way, let's see. If he were to take the, this is an interesting tactical point. If he were to take the knight first, I don't have to take the knight back right away. I can take the bishop, and then he can grab a pawn here. But all I lose is a pawn in this case, and it's not the end of the world. So the most effective way here, you look to see, you notice if you're white here, you notice that the queen is overworked, and you want to choose the most effective way of ending the game. You want to take with the bishop, because now if I don't take back with the queen, I try to take the knight here, for example, my queen is under attack, so I'm losing my queen. So, I mean, you would have to calculate out some perhaps complicated sequence like this, but it all ends up being good for white, because the bishop is not under attack here. So I've got two rooks and two pieces, and he's got two rooks and three pieces. So white has won a whole piece there. So whereas taking the knight allows me to go and grab his bishop. So that's the only trick here. Other than that, you just notice the queen is overloaded, and you take one of those pieces, and you've got an advantage. So my opponent at least missed that, and the game continued. So, but that's the kind of thing you should look for in your games, because they will crop up, especially at our level. So knight bd4. It's sort of your job, actually, as a chess player. You know, when your opponent makes mistakes like that, it's your job to find those mistakes and punish them for them, and also to avoid making those mistakes yourself. So you're under an obligation to take care of those things. So anyway, I had played knight to b4 to finally get away from those tactics on the knight, and he kicks it around, and white has an advantage here. Gained by this somewhat peculiar move. Again, it was probably preferable, if I wanted to do something about the knight, to just exchange it for his knight rather than allow it to be kicked over to the side of the board. But still, it's not the end of the world. White has a slight edge, but the game goes on. You know, so sort of typical opening advantage type of edge. And so we're not playing the most accurate moves here, but it's interesting. And I think here, let's back up. When did he last? He had a pretty good advantage here with knight e to g5. Okay, so his queen move. Yeah, so my opponent's queen moves were not leading to a whole lot. Queen to c1 and queen to g5 actually tilts the balance back in favor of black. And I was feeling pretty good about myself at this point in the game, feeling good about my prospects, because I noticed the queen is really short of squares, and of course it can always escape back on this diagonal and I couldn't see a way to trap it. You know, I can't get my bishop to h6 easily because the queen can just take it right now. So, but I said, well, I'll play this move f5, kick the knight, and now the knight is blocking the queen's retreat, and so now I was really seriously thinking of ways to trap that queen, and so I came up with knight e6, kicking the queen. It's probably a decent move anyway. At least it's you know, it's not just kicking the queen; it's also improving the knight and moving it to a better square. So the queen went to e3, and now I do have to worry about some things. This pawn is under attack from 3 pieces, and I have 2 defenders. Now, rook a to e8 is the computer's suggestion, kind of an indirect defense of the pawn. And rook a to e8 is actually a move I'd been thinking about playing in the game. It's a very logical way to continue the attack and put my rook opposite the queen. So here, let's explore that just for a second. So if I played rook a to e8, could he have actually grabbed the pawn here, say knight takes? Doesn't work because of knight takes, bishop takes, and f4. Or knight to d4. F4 is a little bit mysterious to me. Let's try knight to d4. Knight to d4 takes advantage of the pin on this bishop. So now I've got 2 attackers on the bishop and only has a single defender. He's got to play f4 to defend it. And now I can play knight to c2, forking the queen and the rook. Okay, so that's a pretty clear continuation. So just rook a Rook a to e8 was the move to play there and to rely on tactics to defend the e-pawn, which otherwise is under attack. Okay, so I didn't see that. I went ahead and played the move f4, which is still not awful. I still have an advantage. But I became obsessed with the idea of tracking the queen, trapping the queen here. And I played the move bishop f5, which did not help my case really at all. It's retreating the bishop away from, it had an attacking role there against the king, and it's not doing as much here. And his queen went to a decent square here on c4, so it didn't really help me. It actually creates some problems because the queen is on a good diagonal there, and it's pinning my knight. I'm still, doing okay here. I play knight a5, kicking the queen again, and now, now this obsession with harassing the queen has really gotten me in trouble. So let's back up. Just rook a to c8, once again activating my rook that's in the corner here. He still has this threat on the long diagonal, which I'm ignoring. and of course, a threat against his queen, if it's successful, is more important than losing the exchange on the long diagonal. But of course, you have to be sure that it's actually winning, actually doing something. So, I mean, there's a very simple reason why knight a5 isn't good, which is he can just take it. And then after that, I thought this is not yet falling immediately. So he has to play knight h4, and that opens up an attack on my rook. Rook moves, and then he can grab the bishop. Okay, so it doesn't win massive amounts of material, but it does kind of mess up my pawns over here, and that would be good for white. So that's why this knight a5 was not good. Okay, the diagonal was not yet open. Okay. I had forgotten that. So he went to queen, he moved his queen to a2 instead, which keeps the pin on this knight. And it also, this turns out to be a good diagonal for his queen. It shows up later in the game. I went ahead and opened up a line here on the f-file, hoping to get some counter chances. And then I play king to h8 to get off of this diagonal so that my knight is free to move. And now he has a winning move here, which he played. So let's see. So before I play king h8, I need to play knight c6, get my knight back in the game, and also block this diagonal. So that's the move that really needs to be played here, knight to c6. So you will see the flaw with king to h8. One is I haven't bothered to defend this e-pawn, which is now hanging, and he can just take it. And he takes it with tempo. So the knight is attacking my queen, and the bishop is attacking my rook. so 2 pieces are under attack, and I can only defend one of them. I play queen to c7, and he grabs my rook. So white is winning here. But the game is not yet over. I continue to play. He goes e4, kicking my bishop. Go back to h3, which is okay. Goes knight d to f3. Right there. And now I should play rook f8 here and just get my rook back into the game, get my knight back into the game. So I went knight to d4 here, trying to. I was still hoping to win back some material here, and and I was thinking about. I have two pieces attacking his knight. He's got two defenders. I can interrupt the defense of the knight this way. But what I missed is that the queen is still on this good diagonal. So when the knight moves out of the way, the queen supports the move knight to f7 check, which is a pretty devastating check, and you'll see this happen in the game. So knight here is an interesting move from an aggressive point of view, but it fails to take into account what my opponent's possibilities are. You know, I'm thinking about my possibilities, but not what my opponent can do here. A common mistake. So he takes the knight, and I have to take back. And then he plays knight f7 check. And he could have kicked my queen first with the rook bc1, but this is plenty good enough. I don't want to give up my queen for a knight, and I just had sort of forgotten about his queen sitting there on this beautiful diagonal supporting his knight coming in there. So that's really caught me. So the king only has one move, and then knight here check is once again a double attack. He's attacking the undefended bishop, and he's attacking my king. So I have to move to h8, pretty much the only move, and now he's just winning. So let's just go through the rest of it pretty quickly. That was pretty much all the interesting tactics. I'm just seeing if there are any further blunders, but rook to f8, just trying to activate my pieces. Knight f to g5, okay. Queen to e7. Seeing if I can sneak over here onto the f file and deliver some checks to the king. But he's still got, he can't, I'm still protecting f7, but he has knight e6, which is a good move. Yeah, and the knights here are just causing a lot of devastation because of all these empty squares in my camp. So just too many holes in my position. So he exchanges off the bishop, which is a good choice. He's ahead material. He just needs to trade off some pieces and he'll have a 1 ending. So I went rook to f1. No, he went rook to f1. I went knight c6, getting my knight back into the game. And he brings his queen in and starts checking. He had one really good move here, I think. Yeah, instead of moving the queen, right, he could have mated me right here. So when I moved the knight out of the way, I knew I was opening up this. I was counting on the move rook to g8, but that allows queen takes g8 checkmate. So that was not a good idea to rely on rook to g8. So after there's a mate in 3 starting with rook to c8. There's just no way out. Rook c8 check. It says my best defense is queen to f8. Okay, just giving up the queen. Queen to f8. Rook takes f8. Now rook to g8, and now either rook or queen takes. Doesn't matter. It's all checkmate. Okay, so missed that. Yep. But it was not enough to save me. After knight e5, he went queen d5. I mean, he's still winning here, so he probably wasn't looking for the mates. But really, you should always look for those things when you've got them. And so he takes off some more material and chases my king around. I still had one last-ditch hope here. I just noticed that knight to f3 would be good, but the knight is pinned. So I moved my queen to unpin. Of course, his king is already moved out of the potential fork, but I was thinking, well, maybe my queen could come here and chase his king to a bad square or something. But he delivers this check and then queen e3, and actually ran out of time here. I was thinking of move g5, which I guess is the only move that doesn't lead to immediate checkmate. But after g5, just to show what could happen, the reason why I was hesitating is you can just take it and then just is pretty easily winning with a knight against a rook against a knight and extra pawns. So I was reluctant to go that way. But anyway, in any case, I was still thinking about it when I ran out of time here. And so that's how the game ended. Hope you guys enjoyed that one. I'll be back soon with another game, hopefully a little better played this time. And see you then. Bye.